Stefan Larsson from the Boston Consulting Group. You have spoken on the Achmea-congres Zorg uitkomsten. You told how the quality improvement works in healthcare. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, the starting point is to have good quality data to measure outcomes. And outcomes is the health of patients. So you define for each patient group what are the right things to measure. So for instance, a patient with heart attack, of course you want to know if you survive the heart attack, but you also want to know if you have anxiety after the heart attack, if you're depressed afterwards. And those are measures that are important then to gather the information on and make it available and make it transparent. So there are a couple of things that are critical. The first is that the metrics are chosen by the profession. So the doctors and nurses, they say these are the right metrics, and typically also agreed by the patients. So patients will inform about what metrics are important. And then the information is gathered in a way so the information data is of high quality. Mm-hmm. Because if it's of high quality, then people will trust that you can learn something from it. Mm-hmm. So if you gather that information and make it then transparent, so you publish it, mm-hmm. people look at those who are best, what are they doing?
Yeah, and it has to be published about for each and every care provider.
Yeah, our view is it should be published for the care providers. With that we mean the hospital or the organization, not the individual doctor. We don't think it's meaningful to publish for individual doctors or nurses simply because the statistics aren't good enough. Mm-hmm. So you want it for, say, a hospital or care organization. Mm-hmm. But once you do publish it and people will see the differences, there will be a discussion in the profession of why do the ones who have the best results have such good results. So they will visit each other, trying to learn from it. And so you will define best practice from the variation. Somebody operates better or somebody has a different treatment which gets better results. Mm-hmm. And then that information becomes a continuous improvement cycle. Mm-hmm. You learn from the best practice, you adopt that into how you do medicine in your hospital, mm-hmm. and the next time you measure, you get better results. So you get the cycle of continuous improvement, which is led by the profession with the intent of improving the results for the patients.
Where is Holland in this cycle?
I think what I see is Holland has in a short time embraced the quality question. From having been many years ago, Holland was actually a pioneer international in this field.
That was before World War II, wasn't it?
Yes, before World War II. And since then, for good reasons, it's been difficult to do this. But now it's being embraced. And I heard here at the conference how lots of initiatives are taken now to gathering this information. There have been islands. Holland has fantastic cancer care. There's been cancer registries in Holland for a long time and a few others. But now there's a broader initiative described. And so Holland is taking the first step of looking across many diseases to define the metrics and start gathering the information. And that's the starting point. And I think the Achmea initiative described today, I understood some of it because I had a good translator, mm-hmm. but it was in Dutch. Mm-hmm. But for what I understood, it was very impressive, this initiative, and seems to be broadly supported, as I understand it as well. So I think there's a start, but a very impressive start.
Yeah. And what do you think has to be done from now?
I think one of the things that has to be done is to try to make sure it's not fragmented all over the place, but that there's actually, say, IT platforms which should make it simpler for the doctors and nurses to gather the information. So I think that's an important thing to do. I think it's important to actually get national agreement or even international agreement so that the measurements are done the same way. Mm-hmm. Ideally, if Holland would adopt international measures, then you could rapidly compare yourself to other countries as well, rather than having only Dutch measurements. But even if you would do only the same measurements in Holland, you have enough hospitals to learn a lot from that.
Okay, but today a Dutch hospital published their own data, made that transparent, how they do against the benchmark. Is that enough, or is that just the first step?
No, I think that's the first step. It would be a very important first step, because if you do that and you see the differences, doctors and patients will be interested in understanding why is that and what are you doing about it if the results are not very good. So that will trigger the profession for the continuous improvement we talked about. Okay.
When will you come back to Holland when everything has been arranged and quality is top?
I have the privilege of having a brother who lives in Amsterdam, so I come here all the time. But I think that, with the current development, in a couple of years' time, I think you can be a European front runner in this space. Things are happening quickly, and you seem to be doing the right things.